Hey everyone! I just wanted to talk about an interesting topic that's been on my mind lately. It's something that I think a lot of creators in many spaces that I tend to frequent have on their minds lately. The concept of humanity in art. What is that human touch? And I mean this not just in art, of course, but this shows up in any sort of art form that human beings do, whether it's writing, making video games, digital or physical art, if you're doing a podcast, or if you're making a sculpture. This is something that shows up no matter what, no matter what you're doing. This shows up in it. But why does it show up? And what's it there for? You know? Also, sorry, this is unscripted, so I might ramble a little bit. But to put it simply, I think that the best definition you can give for the human touch in an artwork or the soul of it or stuff like that is a piece of the creator ends up in the work. That's what gives it that human touch. For example, if you really love painting sunsets, the colors that you love most about them are going to be emphasized. The way that it shines either on the water to further emphasize its colors, or maybe you usually see sunsets when you're looking out your window, so you draw an outdoor view through a window with your sunset. You're more likely to make those choices because of subconscious things that you've already seen, that you know what it means to you. It's that may not be the best example, but I'll give an example with my own work. Whenever it comes to my writing, I okay, so as y'all know, I have a boyfriend, and well, that's a relatively well, not too recently. It's been about 6 months, a bit more now. But well, it turns out for a much longer time, I liked him. I'm not an aware human being. I am perhaps the densest thing. I am the neutron star of human beings. So I didn't realize it to the point where it was driving all my friends crazy. It was driving our families crazy. Long story short, it was ridiculous. Everyone was very relieved when we finally figured it out. But I had no idea how long I had had those feelings for him. I only realized after. Okay, y'all are gonna laugh. So basically, I only realized after I had already gone up to him in our little chat we have on Discord, and I was like, I think we're both going to die alone. And I was being weird and awkward because one of our mutual friends had gotten a crush on someone, and they told me about it, and it occurred to me he might fall in love. So I kind of lost it, thinking, oh no, what if some other girl gets his attention instead of me, and he's not thinking about me all the time? I don't know why that was my mindset. Something's wrong with me, I guess. It was weird. I just immediately went to our group chat, not group chat. I immediately went to my chat with him, not grasping the fact that I was trying to ask him to date me. I didn't even slow down enough to think about why I was being possessive over this guy. Look, I've never been in love till now. This is my first time being in a relationship. Hopefully, the only time. I want to marry him. Anyways. So I go in there, I'm like, I think I think we're both gonna die alone. But consider if we do a what if we become each other's life partners? But of course we need to research this. So what if we scientifically do some experimentation to figure out if we would be ideal romantic partners? And so I started listing things that we would do as dates so, to evaluate our romantic potential. Well, not romantic, our partner potential. I wasn't grasping the fact I had romantic feelings for him. Don't worry, I figured it out later. And anyways, for 2 days we called each other research partners. He was, for some reason, his response was, I'm honored you'd consider this. This is so sweet. Well, most people's response would probably be, what is wrong with you? How dare you? Why would you say that to me? As you can see, he's the one. He gets me. He speaks my language and he knows what I'm trying to say. So we're research partners for a bit. Neither of us grasp that we're dating. He really is a good match for me. He's also very dense, my poor sweet love. Um so um so that happens. We figure out 2 days later that we were dating. And then because we decided to look up the definition of what romantic is, because we were trying to figure out, so what do we tell people we are? Because nobody's going to understand research partners. That sounds weird. But surely we're not romantically involved. So we must figure out the right term. Let us Google the definition of romance. Yeah, we figured it out then, but it took us a minute. Anyways, after that, we were trying to figure out how long this has been going on for us, and I did realize after a little bit of looking at my old writing and my art and things like that, that I've been writing a lot of stories where there's a main couple that's totally not dating, but everyone knows that they would make a good couple and they think they're dating, but they're not. They're just friends. They just look like they're dating. They're just weird with each other. That's what I kept calling it. They're just weird with each other. They're just weird about each other. That's it. It's not that they're dating, they're just weird. Yeah, just like me and my boyfriend. Anyways, anyways, I saw that that had influenced all of my writing. Like in Halcyon, ACN, and Sierra, they had that thing going on. With one of my previous books, there was another couple that was like that. One of them even had a similar appearance to my poor dear now boyfriend. And well, I think that's kind of what people mean when they say the human element. Something about yourself gets tangled up in everything you create. Like, think of Pokemon. That was based on old childhood memories. The reason why you're running around capturing Pokemon and there's bug trainers around is because it's based on a little kid in Japan collecting insects and having like stag beetles fight. It's old, fond childhood memories of freedom and adventure and fun. And then there's there's the fact that, and this is a little bit of a slightly sadder point, but in Japan, frequently you're not going to have your dad around that much because they have to work and this and that. And that was an experience that the creators of Pokemon had. Now, I might be misremembering something here, but from what I understand, the dad wasn't around a lot, and that's why you almost always don't have a dad around in the games, because you have your mom, and that's it. And the reason why in the Alolan games you do have your dad around, if I remember correctly, again, I might be misremembering, or at least he's more relevant there. It's because whenever they went on vacations to, I think it was Okinawa. I could be wrong. It was either Okinawa or Hawaii. I'm not sure. I think it was Okinawa though. They would, get to see their dad and hang out on a family vacation. And they tried to capture those happy memories in their work. They even flew to Hawaii in order to do research and actually experience what it's like there. Because without those direct experiences, it wouldn't be as authentic. It wouldn't feel as alive. Because that's how you put the human element in experiences, your feelings, your thoughts, your actual opinions, and the things you learn while you're there. And it's something that we all have the capacity to put into our art. There's so many ways to do it. And it's a little bit of a hard thing to grasp. And you may not even realize it's there unless you do know that person who created it. But it's an important thing. And it's, I think, what helps people connect with you, what you create. There's a reason those things work. Maybe that's not what I mean to say, but there's you can see it whenever you're playing something sometimes. Whenever you're playing through a game and there's this like special food item that just happens to be well loved by the main characters, you and it just so happens that the creator really liked that food and it's got precious childhood memories attached. that means something. It feels like you're connecting with them. It's a way of communicating things like, this food was a precious childhood memory for me. It means peace and happy afternoons to me. It's turns out I don't realize I'm in love, but eventually I will figure it out, and once I do, this is going to be hilarious for everyone. It's I used to pick up these insects and run around so much as a kid, and I miss those happy, sweet memories. How can I put that into video game form? How do I put this into what I create? Why do I love the colors of the sunset, and how do I think of them? What does this mean to me? Why do I want to draw a sunset? Why do I want to make a game about capturing monsters? Why do I want to write this one really specific trope over and over? Why do I like found family so much? It's that human element you can't help but put in. And I think that's something that people don't talk about much because it's not really something you can teach very well. It's not really a teaching thing, I think. Though you can do it on purpose, and I think that's part of why Easter eggs are so fun. It's a little glimpse into the fact that a human being, another person like you, created this. And we're social creatures. We like to see a little glimpse of another person. There's something special about that. Whenever you play, like, who doesn't get emotional when you play a video game and you find a memorial to one of the developers? Or to, like, after they passed away, or to a person who played the games and was a huge fan and they passed away unexpectedly, and now every time you see this NPC or this reference to them, you get a little emotional because that's another person who was a part of this with you, sharing this experience with you. For some reason, this is making me a bit emotional. I can't help but think of real examples of things like that I've seen in video games I played. I mean, you know, I won't name any names. I don't want you guys to start crying too. You probably know some of them. But I hope maybe going over this was something that can help it make more sense to those who are trying to understand this concept, and why I think that's kind of what makes art so meaningful. I think whenever something has that hint of human experience in it, that's what makes it art. I think as long as you have something like that in there, it's art. And that goes for jokes too. There's a reason we like relatable jokes. They connect us with others. They're a fun way of saying, "Hey, I'm a little weird and you're laughing cuz you're weird too and we're the same kind of weird. I didn't know I wasn't the only one who did that." Like when you're standing in a shower and you put your hand out and you can see the water dripping from your hand and you pretend you're a waterbender or something. There's something funny and very human about that. You know? Or flipping out and when some weird thing suddenly touches your hand in the middle of the night. You know, funny, weird human experiences. There's just a lot of things we do as humans that make us feel connected to one another and remind us that we are all not that different from each other, even if we are very unique as individuals. And I think our uniqueness on top of our similarities are best found in art. The things that make us different and the same can be found there. The things that fill our life with joy and the things that we care about show up in there. And the things we believe show up there. In the things we disagree with and agree with and this and that, you know? But also the things we share with other human beings, no matter what our beliefs or who we are, show up there. It's it's a really important part of what makes art art. And I think it shows up in every art form that you can think of. Theater, sculpting, writing, drawing, everything, programming. And yes, that is an art form if you weren't sure. Translating too. Now, I know not everyone thinks of translation as an art form, but trust me, if you look at the work of translators and read their notes as they go through it, you'd be surprised just how much human experience and knowledge has to go into that. You have to do so much research, and it is so important for you to actually have a relationship with the language that you're trying to translate into to get something to make good sense. Because you can't just one to one translate something directly. Languages are way too complex for that, especially if you're translating something that's got a lot of emotion in it. I have an amazing friend who does these beautiful translations. Actually, I have a few friends who are translators, and it's so interesting watching them work because I get to see a little hint of just all the effort that goes into it. And I see them discussing this might be like this and this might be like that. This might be a better translation because of this. And I myself like researching language and I'm practicing my Japanese. It's not very good yet, but I'll get there one day, I think. And it's interesting trying to translate things and figure out how to get them right because you have to think about what did the human who made this mean? What do you want to say with your words? How do you say that in a way that doesn't make it sound ridiculous? And it's really hard if you haven't done something like that before to even comprehend that. I mean, it took me a long time to get to where I could even begin to understand just how complicated it was. I got lucky and I managed to find this one book that I really like that had the translation notes throughout the entire thing. So as I read through the book, I could read through the translation notes and see all of the like there's so many cultural references and like old poems that were referenced in the story I was reading. It was incredible. The amount of interesting things that couldn't be conveyed one to one without an explanation or without trying to find a similar equivalent. Like there's debates that happen in like anime and other things. It may not be anime. I don't know. Where there's this game called Go, and it frequently gets translated as chess instead, whenever turned into English. Even though they have different rules and things like that, they have a similar role in our consciousness. Go is a very strategic game. Chess is a very strategic game. Sometimes it would only make sense to leave it as Go, but sometimes it would make more sense to make it chess if you're trying to make something that Americans are more likely to grasp and understand. Now, sometimes you can go too far, and if you do a shoddy job of it, people aren't going to get it. For example, Pokemon in I think it was the 4 Kids dub did some weird stuff. Let's not forget the the remember the jelly filled donuts that were actually rice balls? See, the thing is that they were trying to convey the idea that this was a treat with a nice filling that you would want to eat casually and is popular amongst most youngsters that would be on an adventure in this context. It would make sense to make a rice ball or eat a fun jelly donut while you're on an adventure. I guess you're not cooking a rice ball in the wood. I guess you're not cooking a donut in the woods, but you get what I'm saying. They were trying, but they didn't really understand what they were translating, and it would have been better to put it as rice ball. It's just like you could have been like, it's a rice ball with a pickled plum inside. Just because we understand the concept of rice, we understand the shape of a ball. There you go, rice ball. It would have made more sense to do that, but they weren't that great at translating yet, so they made some odd localization choices. Don't get me started on the Sailor Moon dub. We're not going to get started on that. If you know anything about translation drama at all, or just Sailor Moon, you'll know just how fricked up that was. Anyways, I think that kind of gets into the question in a good way, and I think that I said what I wanted to say on the subject. I think it would be a fun exercise at home for you to try and see what hints of yourself show up in your work. Why is it that you maybe draw all your characters in jackets? Do you frequently wear jackets yourself? That's something I did for years. Or like, is there just a weird angle you constantly like to draw characters at? Why do you think that is? Why is it that you prefer this type of hair color or hairstyle? Or why do you only draw, or why do you frequently draw just this one gender? Is this just like your thing? Do you just like doing that? Spent years drawing nothing but girls. I thought girls were more fun to design. I draw guys now too, but I still kind of make girl ish, according to my mom, looking designs. Not that you can really say that about anything. I mean, it's so vaguely defined, anyways. It's not a big deal. But mom could not tell the gender of anything I made ever. And I just had to accept that that was something I had to learn more about. It was really more of an anatomy issue than it was necessarily that. But when you practice one thing so many times, it's just gonna make all your other stuff look this way. Like if you draw nothing but My Little Pony characters and then you go and try to draw an anime character, it's gonna influence some of the decisions you make whenever you're drawing that character. And that's not a bad thing. It's part of what makes your style unique. Your humanity, I think, is where you get your style from. Okay, I guess I do have more to say on this. Okay, so let's say you draw Sailor Moon characters, or you just really like Sailor Moon. You might end up having a bunch of long, flowy, curly hair a lot. That's something I know I do a lot. And I think that's where style comes from. That's where your writing style comes from. Do you use 10,000 commas? You might. And if you do, you might like a lot of older literature, perhaps. Or it might just be that you tend to have run on sentences in your brain a lot. You know? Stuff like that. Or maybe you really like long, flowery, purple prosy descriptions. That might just be a thing for you because you really, really enjoy drawing sensory information. Ooh, or if you. I noticed that sometimes I can even tell by reading what someone is thinking about when they first walk into a room. The way you describe a room can tell you so much about what you do when you first enter a room as a writer. And I had this funny conversation a while back with another writer about that. Because I noticed that they were way too good at describing rooms in a very specific way that reminded me of something I did, which is that whenever I walked in, for a few years back when I first got into writing, when I would first walk into a room, I'd try to see what did I notice first. What were the sensory experiences? What were the sights, smells, touches, etc.? What occurred to me to notice first? How did I expand that observation as my time in that room went on? What do you notice first, and then second, and third, then fourth? That really influenced my writing, and I realized that that person was doing it in a very similar way. And it was just a hunch. You can't totally read someone's mind that way. But it turns out I was right. They did do what I did with that, and they were totally stunned whenever I asked them, "Hey, do you do this really specific thing?" And when they asked how I knew, I explained that I did it too. And it was really a fun moment of connection there. And it just goes to show that you being the observer and then creating something really infuses so much of you yourself as a person with it, you know? I think that's about all I had to say on this subject, but I think that it's safe to say that the humanity and soul of something is very much so also the style and idea of it. And I think that's wow, I didn't even realize till I was making this video that they were connected like that. I mean, you know? That oh, that's where your style comes from. The style, your art style and your soul in a piece are the same thing. And you might get better at doing your style, and your style might evolve and change over time as your interests do. But your style is always yours, no matter how much you draw, because anything you draw or create will have your likes, your dislikes, your things infused in it. That's pretty amazing. No matter what your skill level, that'll happen. And I think that's about all I wanted to say on this. I'm about to run out of recording time, and I'd like to thank you for listening, and I hope that you'll like, comment, and subscribe if you want to see more. This is different than my usual style of content, but I thought it might be interesting to talk about. So, thanks for watching. If you want to see more of this, let me know in the comments. Be safe, bye!